How's it going? Once again, Beyond the Benches, it's your man JT coming at you with this video here to talk about mainly these Miami Dolphins and the upcoming 2019 NFL Draft. Now, we are just a couple of weeks away before teams can start to make some cuts and roster changes and stuff like that. And lots of rumors around the Miami Dolphins with the new regime coming in. Lots of turnover expected, some players expected to be let go, talks of rebuilding and tanking and all those rumors. So we're sure to see plenty of changes there. Then by the second week of March, teams can start making trades and free agent signings. So we're starting to come up on the time period where the teams, and particularly these Dolphins, can make a lot of moves and shift things up in that regard. So, but also with that said, is 2 months away from the NFL Draft. And that's also going to be a huge part of this offseason for the Miami Dolphins. As, you know, with all these rumors going around, that is what's going to set the precedent that this team will follow for the next 2 to 3 seasons and really kind of show which direction this team is headed in. And as far as I'm concerned, there's really only three directions that the team can go, the three options. And I'll go over those and why I think it is. And I think really it's pretty much just these three options, or anything else is kind of a little bit of a failure, and I'll get into why I say that. The first one is to trade up for a quarterback. So assuming that would be Dwayne Haskins or Kyler Murray, right? A lot of people, I like Drew Lock a lot, but a lot of people kind of see this as a 2 quarterback draft class with those 2 guys. So if you're trading up, you know, you would assume it'd be for one of them, and I absolutely would be in favor of this. I think Dwayne Haskins is a stud, legit franchise quarterback. I like Kyler Murray a lot as well. A little less so. I think he's a little bit more of a gamble, but certainly a player that you'd have to be excited about if he was on your team and potentially your team's quarterback. So absolutely 100% in favor of that first option. The second one would be staying at 13 and taking a quarterback. So that's, you know, staying around and waiting for a Drew Lock, or if you're fortunate enough to have a Dwayne Haskins or Kyler Murray fall to you at 13, then you take those guys, and that's your, you know, that would be your selection going to quarterback that route. I think that's probably the preferred option, but, you know, is a quarterback going to be available at 13? That's 12 other teams that's got to pass on a quarterback, or another team behind you doesn't trade up and get one. Look at the Washington Redskins, who could definitely be one of those teams that are at 15 right now. They could trade ahead of you and take a quarterback. So I don't know if somebody lasts till 13, but obviously if they do, that's the second option. The third one would be trade down. Trade down, get extra draft picks for the 2020 draft, and move on with that, and you make a selection later on in the draft. And again, the reason I think it's really only these 3 options, and everything else kind of feels like a bit of a disappointment. And people may say, well, you could get a great player at 13, you can do all this. You can do that any year. And it's great and it's nice, but it's not the point. Like, it just doesn't matter ultimately. The team needs more than that. The team needs something that kickstarts a rebuild and a change in the organization and shows, you know, gives this new regime something to build around. And the 2 ways to start a rebuild are a young quarterback to get behind, root behind, and, you know, and build your team around, or lots of draft picks. It's the 2 best ways to kickstart the rebuild. So either you take your quarterback, being one of those first 3 guys, Kyler Murray, Haskins, or Lock. Again, I like all of them. You know, Haskins I think is the best of the 3, but I wouldn't complain with any of them being on my team. Or you trade down if 2020 is indeed, like some of the rumors have stated, where you're eyeballing your future quarterback. Then you trade down, get those extra draft picks, because there's no guarantee that you're going to get the number 1 pick. I know a lot of people say, oh, we'll just be bad, get the, you know, we'll tank, which I made a video about a couple weeks ago. There's no guarantee that you are going to get that number 1 pick. It's just as hard to get that number 1 pick as it is to make the playoffs. It's just the other end of the spectrum. You know, plenty of bad teams. The Oakland Raiders were the worst team in football this year. It was not the Arizona Cardinals, but the Oakland Raiders won a late season game, you know, kind of a fluke win against the Steelers out of nowhere. And even though I think they had the worst roster and were the worst team throughout the season, that win is why they're not only not picking first, they're picking all the way at 4th. And a similar thing could happen to the Dolphins, where, you know, you may think your team's bad enough to get high enough in the draft to get a quarterback, but a couple of wins or situations, and now all of a sudden, you know, you're not high enough. And the problem with tanking is it's such an all your eggs in one basket strategy. So that's why you need those extra draft picks. So if you're not as high as you think you're going to be, you can trade up because you got the extra ammunition and get that quarterback in 2020 that you've eyeballed around. Because ultimately, that's what the rebuild comes down to. And I know it's not, the quarterback isn't the only position and not the only position that matters, but it is the most important position, and it's what any good rebuild is centered around. Really, the two teams that win Super Bowls are teams that have good quarterbacks and are well-balanced throughout the rest of their roster, or have elite, top 2, top 3 defenses, historically good defenses. That's it. The second one with the defense is much harder to build. It takes multiple good decisions, over years and years, building good depth, finding, 4, 5, 6 elite defensive talents. That's those kind of teams. A quarterback, that's one selection, right? If you take a quarterback and you get a Patrick Mahomes, you get a Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. Look at the Dolphins with Dan Marino. Dan Marino, one selection, 22nd overall in the draft. The Dolphins took Dan Marino. A decade and a half of being relevant and going to Super Championship games and going to Super Bowls and, being in the mix every single year. One selection. And the same thing can happen with taking a quarterback this year. And I think they absolutely need to. I think I'm 100% in favor of taking into the top 3 guys. And even if you do trade down and set yourself up well for 2020, or even if you're tanking for 2020, let me try that again like I can speak this morning. I still think there's no excuse not to take a quarterback in this draft when it comes to the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round. With guys, then you're talking about Easton Stick or Will Grier or, Brett Rippon. I think you got to take a chance. It's easy to say, we'll wait a year or 2 for a quarterback. Once you start watching those games with no quarterback, it gets sad quick. And the truth is, there's no guarantee of what's going to be available a year from now, 2 years from now. And the Dolphins need to select a quarterback this year. And if they don't make a huge investment in a quarterback, then they need to eyeball who they want next year and get as much picks and ammunition to get that guy, because that's what's going to turn this team around. So let me know what you guys think. Again, Miami Dolphins, it's get a quarterback or set yourself up well to get one in the future. That's the path I think they need to take. Let me know if you agree down below. And if you like this video, give it a like and make sure to subscribe. I'm going to be coming out with lots of videos coming up now that, we're getting into the NFL offseason. Be talking about moves, draft, mock drafts, all that good stuff. So stay tuned and see y'all next time.